theology. We chop it up properly without an apology. Gotta give doxology to God hollow, because this is how we do it at All Things Theology. All Things Theology, All Things Theology. We chop it up properly without an apology. Gotta give doxology to God hollow, because this is how we do it at All Things Theology.
Yo guys, grace and peace. Welcome to another episode of All Things Theology. I am Kdub. I am the host of All Things Theology, and today I want to talk about money. What does the Bible say about money? Now I know what you're thinking. Generally, the topic of money is kind of avoided in Christian circles because of the negative connotations, I believe, of the prosperity gospel. And okay, right, we understand, we agree that prosperity gospel is dangerous, but we should have a biblical view of money, of finances. I believe the Bible talks about money positively many times, also negatively. And so I want to talk about those things. Growing up, and I think it's still true today, there are a couple things that people don't like talking about. One may be the faith, we shouldn't talk about religion. Other is politics. We shouldn't be political. Hey, keep it to yourself, so to speak. And three, it's money. Those things are generally not talked about, those three things. So I want to talk about those things. I want to give biblical principles for you. If you're a Christian watching this, I have good news. This is for you. And I want to help you navigate your life and give you principles in which helped me and my wife's life. And so first principle I want to talk about with money, and I think it's something we should not neglect, but we should recognize. We should recognize the sovereignty of God in our finances. God's glory should motivate us in what we do, right? 1 Corinthians 10:31. So whatever you eat or drink or whatever you do all to the glory of God, right? Psalm 115:1. Not to us, O Lord, not to us, but to your name give glory, for the sake of your steadfast love and your faithfulness. One more verse. Honor the Lord with your wealth and with the first fruit of all your produce. Then your barns will be full with plenty, and your vats will be bursting with wine. Proverbs 3:9 and 10. So what do these verses help us see? Well, it helps us see God's sovereignty in all things. One, God is sovereign over our money, right? Ultimately, he's the one who controls how much we make, yet there's still responsibility, and we'll get into that in a little bit. God is sovereign over this, and it's God's glory ultimately which should motivate us in our money, and as the verses talked about, in all things, but specifically, I'm talking about money in this episode. And so I hope that as a Christian, the reason why you do what you do in your finances is because you want to glorify God, not just be comfortable in your lifestyle. And we'll get into some of those things. But I do want to give practical reasons, practical advice to Christians, because me and my wife were having this talk the other day, and we were kind of voicing our past early in our marriage, in our childhood especially, because we never got taught about finances, how to save, how to avoid debt, and how to budget, how to checkbook, bank. None of these things were got taught to us. So we learned the hard way, stumbling. And so hopefully, maybe you're watching this, you're young. Even if you're old, I still think there's still potential. So don't think, well, I'm 50, I'm terrible with my money, there's no way out. Yes, there is. So if you're old or young, this applies specifically to young people, because I think you have an opportunity that older people may not. And that is, you have to start young, instill a lot of these principles in your life right off the bat, right when you're young. And I hope to instill that when I have children into them. You'll get there in a second. But second point I want to talk about, right? We talk about the glory of God, talk about the sovereignty of God. Number two, I think, so practical wisdom here. Avoid debt. And I'm going to get into reasons how to, but let's start with scripture. Proverbs 22:7. The rich rules over the poor, and the borrower is the slave of the lender. right? And so I believe Christians should not want to be slaves to the lender. Now, I know what you're saying. Well, I have a mortgage. How can I buy a house? I know what you're saying, and I know there are some people that extreme will say you should pay cash for everything. That's not why I'm not coming from that perspective. So let me just say this also too. I'm providing wisdom, not absolutes. There are many ways how to navigate your finances. I don't claim to be the finance guru, but I do believe the principles that I'm providing today will help you in. Like I said, it's worked in my life. So not just being pragmatic, I've seen it work for other people's lives as well, and I believe these are biblical principles as well. And so, not all debt is sinful or even avoidable, right? Okay, you just have to get the car note, you have to get the house note. I get it. There's some things you can't avoid, but let me like I said, let me give you practical ways to avoid those debts and get out of debt as well. So let's say you're in debt. Okay, you have to get this debt, necessary debt, if you're going to get your house. Okay, I get it. But let me give you avoidable ways or ways to get out of debt. And maybe you're just starting off. Maybe you have $30,000 student loans and other places. Let me give you some advice. So I would encourage anyone. Okay, you're trying to get out of debt. Start with saving $1,000. Now, to some people that might, man, I don't know how I'm going to do that. Yes, you can do it. And let me show you how you can do it. A couple years ago, so I live in Texas, so you may have to adjust, you know, living where you are. I was making about $38,000 a year. That's not a lot of money. Not a lot of money. And on top of that, my wife was not working at the time. So $38,000, two people, and we did it. We saved $1,000. We started off $1,000. We would say, "Hey, I'm gonna save $1,000. We're not gonna touch it." Now, we did at one point because hey, we just had to. We had to. Okay, so I get it. But let's say you do touch it. Get back to that thousand. We got back to that thousand, and we haven't touched it. We paid our thousand, or so we saved 1,000. Then, so next point, we started paying off debt, and there's a couple ways you can do this. People like the snowball effect. People there's like I said, there's multiple ways how you can start paying off your debt. So you can do this way. You can start with the biggest. You can, hey, I'm gonna take out the biggest debt I have. I have $10,000 in student loans. I'll knock it out. Okay, cool. Or you can start with the smallest. Okay, I got $50 here. I got $200 over here. Um, Medical, 1,000 here. You can do that way. Now, I'll give you my preference because I think building confidence in this is huge. Start with the smallest. Start with the smallest. It's called the snowball effect, I believe. And when it comes to debt, because I think people need small victories. And so you can start off paying, hey, a little by little so that you can gain that confidence, gain momentum. Hey, this stuff is working. I'm paying off debt. It's exciting. So get that confidence you need. But whatever way you do it, do it. Do something. Start paying off debt. Start chiveling away at that large debt. Fine, do it that way. Other thing I would say, practical ways to avoid debt is get rid of things putting you in the debt. So guess what? This may mean cutting up the credit card until you can handle it. So I know there are many people who do finances that are anti-credit card. I'm not anti-credit card because I understand people want to build their credit. We live in that kind of age where credit is important. But I believe that majority of people who have credit cards are totally irresponsible and should not have them. So if that is you listening, I would encourage you cut up your credit card because majority of times people spend on credit. Me and my wife look back and we were like, we would just spend on credit card on stuff we didn't need. A lot of those things. So if you're going to use a credit card, I think there is a responsible way to use it. Some people use it. Hey, I'm just going to spend on gas. I'll pay it off immediately. Hey, that's great. I think that's great. But let's be honest. Most of us don't use credit cards like that. Most of us use credit cards like I used to. That's extra money. It's like, no, that is not extra money. You have to pay that back. And not just giving you free money. You have to pay that back. And guess what? Many times the interest is crazy. Especially if you already had a bad credit score, the interest rate's higher. And so that's another reason why to avoid debt, get your credit score higher, interest rates go down. And so for the things that let's say you want to buy a house or a car, the interest rates will be lower if your credit score is higher. And so motivation right there to get out of debt, have your credit score being higher. So you may say, hey, look, I don't make that much. Well, I've already told you a story, my personal story of how me and my wife got out of debt, making nearly bare minimum. I'm convinced of this, that people can make it in America off of about 35,000. I truly believe that 30,000 maybe. You may say, how? Well, this is a huge principle in my financial advice. Like I said, I'm not a financial guru. I'm just giving you what worked for me and my wife. So, a principle I would add, so right, getting out of debt. I think this principle goes in hand with it is budget. Yes, have your money allocated. If you get paid bi-weekly, every 2 weeks, allocate your money. The income you receive, this may sound like shocking or some grand wisdom. You can't spend more than what comes in because that's called debt. Your debt to income ratio will be insane if you do that. And guess what? It's so easy just to swipe the card. That's why me and my wife very rarely swipe our card. Let me show you why. I'm talking about our debit card even. I'm not even getting to the credit card issue. So this is how me and my wife do it. Like I said, you may find something better for you, better for your family, but I would encourage you to do something. Budget some way. There's many programs out there. Um, I wish I could name the budget um, that me and my wife follow, but nevertheless, budget somehow. So like I said, you don't have to be a photocopy of me. That's not what I'm encouraging. I'm not giving dogmatic statements. Be like me. I'm just giving you what worked for me and my wife. So we budgeted. Me and my wife would take out the money we use. So, example, we pay our bills, but so like I said, we budget for everything we spend in 2 weeks and take it out in cash. That's why we barely use our our debit card. So let's say we budget for our groceries, gas, and guess what? We'd even budget for going out to eat, and we have a little fun money, like, hey, just for extra stuff we want to do in these 2 weeks. Now, a lot of people are like, okay, this is insane. This is hard. Well, okay, I'm going to get to that in a second. But these are things, okay, do you want to get out of debt? Do you want to continue to live paycheck to paycheck? We didn't. We were like, okay, this is insane. We're living paycheck to paycheck. Where does our money go? And we looked at where our money was going, look at our bank statements, and we were like, we're spending like crazy amount of money going out to eat. So we were like, okay, something's got to give. Something's got to stop. My wife looked into it, said, okay, we need a budget. And so we sat down together and looked at everything, and we were like, yeah, let's budget. And we did. And this was about 2 years ago. So we've been following these principles for about 2 years. So we're still young in the game when it comes to that. But I want to encourage you and let you know it has worked for us tremendously. Like I said, I wish I could give even more personal. I don't want to give too much personal stuff. But to those who know me, hey, if you know me, hey, hit me up and I'll be like, hey, look, this is how much it's worked. I can as many people today, I can show you receipts, right? But it's hard. Why? because you have to be disciplined. You have to be disciplined when it comes to budgeting. But I believe if you start these principles, and I talked about seeing victories, you see how it works. You see the effects. People will be like, "Wow, I got to keep doing this because I see it." Guess what? So if me and my wife want a book, we don't just flippantly buy it. I know that's hard. That's so hard. Trust me. I know that's spending off impulse. But guess what? If I want a book, if we want to go out on a date, we don't just impulsively do it. Unless, like I said, we have our fun money. But let's say we spend off all our fun money for this pay period. So, hey, well, we just got to wait till we get paid. And then we pay off the bills. Then we see, okay, can we afford it? Okay, yeah, we got it. Boom. I pay for the book. I got it. Try it out. I hope if you're listening, you'll try what I'm saying. But you have to be disciplined, and you can't be lazy. You can't be lazy. You can't be lazy when it comes to working hard. So let's get on the discipline for a moment. Hebrews 12:1 talks about discipline seems painful rather than pleasant, and it's talking about all discipline, all forms of discipline, not just spanking or not that form of although that definitely applies. But look what it says: later it yields the peaceful fruit of righteousness to those who have been trained by it. Discipline in all areas. It's hard when you first are stealing these things. But later, you see, oh, okay, that's why. Okay, that hard moment was meant for this good. And so don't be lazy as well. It's talked about the scripture, Proverbs 6, chapter 6, 6-8 says, go to the ant, O sluggard, consider her ways and be wise. Without having any chief, officer, or ruler, she prepares her bread in summer and gathers her food in harvest. Work hard. Be disciplined and work hard. Don't be lazy in this. Yes, it takes work, it takes time, it takes effort, but be diligent in your finances, and you'll see the blessings. I'm certain. Um, Next, I want to talk about leave a legacy, right? So why also do we want to have these financial means that I'm speaking of? We want to leave a legacy for our children and others. We desire to gain money so we can bless others, not to be hoarders, and I'll get to that, right? It's not just having our stuff. Proverbs 13:22 talks about a good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children, but the sinner wealth is laid up for the righteous, right? So I desire have my money go, Lord willing, when we have children, to our children, and right, and to help them, benefit them, pass that down. Um, so I think I believe that's a biblical principle. But we have to, if and I grant it, God is sovereign over our finances. So if you're poor, say, hey, I don't know if I'll ever get to that point. I'm definitely not. I'm not trying to condemn anyone, but I hope this is encouragement more so than condemnation. But we have to be providers for our families. So also, you know, we're talking about money, so there are dangers to it as well. So don't be stubborn. Check your heart in this, like why you want to have money. Hebrews 13:5 tells us to keep your life free from the love of money and be content with what you have. For he has said, I will never leave you nor forsake you. So there is contentment in this. Be content on this journey. You know, don't love money. But me and my wife, so being forward with you guys, me and my wife want to have money because one, you guys know that I've talked about wanting to adopt. So our money's like we want to gain money so we can have that. We want to have money so we can give to ministries. Have you ever think about this, guys? Have you ever wanted to give? You saw that there was a need, but didn't have the money to give. Don't get me wrong. Pray for them. That's great, and I would encourage that more because right, our hope is not in money. Our hope is in our sovereign Lord. So yes, prayer is more important than money, but God uses means. And there's been times in me and my life that me and my wife's life, sorry, we've wanted to give but did not have the means. because we were so bad in our spending. So I'm encouraging you to hammer down in your finances so that you will be able to give. Okay? But don't be stingy. Don't right? The Lord loves a cheerful giver. Be be a giver. Bless others. That's not, like I said, we don't require acquire all this money and wealth for our just for our sake, right? Scripture talks about that. For the love of money is a root of all kinds of evils. It is through this craving that some have wandered away from the faith and pierced themselves with many pangs. 1 Timothy 6:10. So right, we do not love money. Money is just a means. So right, there's checks and balances to this, pardon the pun. But be diligent, and that's what lastly I want to talk about. Make plans. So I'll talk about budgeting. Plan how you want to budget. Sit down with your spouse. Plan how you're going to do this. Every 2 weeks, how's our money going to be allocated? Start a savings account, okay? How much money are we going to put in savings every time we get paid? And then like I said, if you're going to do the route I talked about, where hey, look, we're just going to get $1,000, and then we'll wait to get to savings once we paid out a good amount of our debt, or you can do both. Like I said, that's up to you and your spouse to talk about. But make those plans. Without counsel, plans fails. But with many advisors, they succeed. Proverbs 15:22. Talk about this with others. Hey, I see you're good with money. What did you do? Help me out. um, the plans of the diligent lead surely to abundance, but everyone who is hasty comes only to poverty. Very interesting. Proverbs 21:5. Be diligent in your plans. Save. Talk to others. Seek advice. Biblical advice. Um, good wisdom. Stay away from false teachers like the prosperity gospel, okay? That's not what I'm talking about here. But be diligent in this. Um, like I said, I hope this has been encouraging to you. Hopefully, you have been motivated watching this, saying, "Wow, man, I can do it. I make more. I make more than 38,000." And you may live in Texas, so yeah, you can do it. Takes work. So, hey guys, hope this video was helpful for you. Please, please, if you enjoy the video, leave a comment. If you have any questions, leave a comment. Like this video, share it out if it's been a blessing to you, and maybe you're watching this on your journey. Let me know how it's been going for you. I definitely want to know how it's been going for you. Um, I would love to be encouraged by the work that you put in. So hey guys, hope this has been helpful. Till the next time, grace and peace.